You heard him speaking out of the fire. Moses says this twice in our reading today. He says, "Did anything so great ever happen before? Did a people ever hear the voice of God speaking from the midst of the fire as you did?" Do you ever consider what a great privilege it is to hear the very words of God? St. Dominic did. At the age of 14, he was sent to one of the best universities of the time and studied the cutting-edge sciences of his day. He was there for 10 years, but he wasn't interested in worldly success or pleasure. He remembered the joys of growing up under the mentorship of his uncle, who was a priest. And young Dominic eventually changed his university studies to be only theology and philosophy. And even while being a respected student at his university, he lived a penitential life. He abstained from all wine and alcohol, and he spent an equal amount of time praying as he did studying. Can you imagine if our college students did that today? It was said of St. Dominic that he spoke only to God or of God. Could we live a little more like that, When a famine hit all of Spain while he was a student, not only did he sell his extra clothes to feed the poor, but he also sold his books, his very livelihood. And at that time, books were hand-copied before the printing press and were very expensive. This action shocked his professors and friends, and they questioned him about this. And these are the very first words we have of St. Dominic. He said, "Would you have me study off those dead parchments when there were living men dying of hunger?" This witness of charity set the hearts of the professors and students on fire, and it led to this movement of charity from the whole university, and many poor people were saved from death in this famine because of his generosity. Their hearts were set on fire by Dominic's words, because his heart was set on fire by the words of God spoken from the fire. Do you know how St. Dominic got his name? His mother was struggling with infertility, and she took a pilgrimage to a local holy place named after a different St. Dominic from 100 years ago. And there she had a mysterious vision of a black and white dog coming out of her womb with a flaming torch in its mouth. And with this torch, it set the whole world on fire. She then became pregnant, and she named her son after the previous St. Dominic, but it was a providential pun, because in Latin the phrase Domini canis means hound of the Lord. Canis like canine, and Domini like dominion or Lord. So how did Dominic set the world on fire? It was through founding the order of preachers, through preaching, and through words of fire. I'll share one more story of fire from St. Dominic. He and his companions would go town to town preaching the gospel barefoot, walking through the woods, and relying completely on God's providence for all their needs. One time when he was preaching and the Catholic leaders didn't know what to do, they took a book from the heretics of the time and one of his books, and they threw them both in the fire and said, "Let's see if the Lord does something." And the heretics' books crumbled to ashes in the fire. But Dominic's book not only remained unharmed, but it actually leapt out of the fire. And they threw it back in the fire 3 times. Every time it miraculously leapt out and was unharmed. And so his words were literally coming out of the fire, like we heard in Deuteronomy today. What's amazing also is only a few of the heretics converted. To the rest, this miracle had no effect. Some people's hearts are so hard that not even God can set them on fire. There's an irony, too. We don't have even one sermon or book written by St. Dominic that survives. But the fire he started is still burning today in the awesome work of the Dominican order all over the world. These dogs of the Lord, dressed in black and white. So I encourage you today, what will you do with these words you heard, especially our gospel, these words of fire from the Lord himself? You see, Jesus didn't say, "Whoever wishes to come after me must build up their own strength and security, avoid suffering as much as possible, and follow their dreams. No, our Lord said, with words of heart-piercing, life-giving fire, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me."